And so allow me to introduce Professor Shitu from Bayero University, Kano. Professor Shitu will introduce himself, but let me recognize that he is a past vice president of IACD. When IACD board used to have a president and vice president and board members, now we have trustees and a chairman. So Professor Shitu might want to say hi and possibly introduce your students.
Hello.
Hello.
Good morning.
Morning, Prof.
Yes, Shitu Mohammed Bello from Bayero University, Kano. I have with me students of community development. Not only the presenters, but other students seated with us here, keen to learn from this new experience. I will ask we have two students who are presenting, Jibda, Abubakar, and Patience. And there are other students around, and I think they can introduce themselves. We are looking forward to this webinar. We hope to learn and share from our teaching and learning experiences. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Prof. And the presenters from Bayero is Patience Ojo Chugu and Jedida Abubakar. They will be introducing themselves as they make their presentation. And let's now go to Chuka University. Boniface Munene.
Oh yeah, greetings from Kenya. My name is Boniface. I teach at Chuka University and I'm presenting a student actually called Catherine Kasoli, a fourth-year undergraduate student doing Bachelor of Science in Community Development. I've been a member for quite some years now, and I look forward to see this taking good progress because we need to mentor this student and they are relying on us actually. And the university, especially Chuka University, they are very happy for what is happening. And we look forward also for partnership. So thank you so much and I wish all the best for the presenters today.
Thanks, Boniface, for the leadership and Catherine for stepping up to make this presentation. Then University of Western Cape, we have Cornell Hart, and also in absentia, we want to recognize Lindani Mapfumulo, who is away on research. And so Cornell will stand in and come back and just say hi and then introduce Kabelo.
Sorry, colleagues, Dan, just an update. Lindani, although he's traveling for research with poor connectivity, I see he did connect. I'm not too sure. I think he will drop in and out because of deep rural area that he's in, but he is here for now. So as the lecturer for Kabelo and them, he's here, but I will stand in should he drop out.
Yeah, I had seen him and I was not so sure now that you had said he was going to be away on fieldwork. But now that he's here, Lidani, you might want to say hi.
Hi, colleagues. I'm not sure if I'm audible from your side.
Yeah, we can hear you quite well. Thank you.
Yes, as Dr. Hart was saying, I'm actually on the road. But I couldn't wait not to join because I think this is a very good and interesting platform and initiative. And I'm here to learn mostly from the presentation. Yeah, I'm from Western Cape with Dr. Hart and our beloved Kabelo, who is presenting on our behalf today. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you so much and stay safe. Really appreciate the stepping up and getting this happening from University of Western Cape. And so let's go back now to Bayero University and get the presentation going from Patience and Jida. The floor is yours, Bayero University, Kano.
All right, my name is Patience Ojotobi Yabe, and I'm glad to be here. I'm so happy to be a part of this meeting. Thank you for the opportunity to present. And we'll be talking about our experiences so far and how we have learned and applied what we have been doing so far. All right, our introduction, I'll be talking from the introduction, just like you are seeing it projected. All right, community development was organized or was started in Bayero University about, let's say, 25 years ago. It was integrated into the adult education course. And not long after, there was a need to specifically establish a course, community development. And so that was why it came into existence, and that's because of the need. All right, I'll be going ahead. Number one, we had the addressing local need. We discovered that there were a lot of local needs in our communities. Our staffs were not sufficient. There was need to bring more staffs into the local government areas. There was need to encourage those staffs to work better. Hence the establishment of community development in our nation, in our community. Going forward, there was also a need because there were growing developmental organizations in our country. There was different civil society being established, different organizations that were established particularly to take care of community developmental needs. But then we discovered that those communities never had the expertise, never had the professionalism to keep up with the work. So there was a need to establish community development so that we can raise professionals in the field who can go into those already existed organizations, or who can also own their own organizations so that they will be able to help these needs that have been identified. All right, going forward, there was also academic exposure. This community development has been able to expose our students to different topics, different courses. In some of those courses are theories and practices of community development, where we learn some theories, some practices of community development workers. Some of those community development practices are values into practice, engaging with the community, participatory planning, organize for change, learning for change. So all this was particularly to give the students the attitude, everything they need just to encourage them to work in the field of community development. We also had some other courses like community-based theories and principles of community-based rehabilitation. We discovered that in communities, we had some other persons who were not really, who are disadvantaged, people who need attention. So there was a need to bring them in. All right, then lastly, we had we had courses like advanced group dynamics. All right, we'll be moving forward. We have had some achievements thus far in community development at BUK, some of which are visitation to communities around Bayero University, Kano. Some of those communities are Janguza, Rimin Zakara, we had Danbury, and we were able to take care of the health challenges that we were able to identify some of these health challenges in the communities. Going forward, we sensitized and we created an awareness or a sensitization, as the case may be, for communities around BUK like Danbury, where we had to sensitize them on sanitation, keeping their environments clean. We also supported water supply initiative in a local government in Kano. It's called the City Ward, where a particular student went there and discovered that there was a need for clean water, and so he established that. All right, lastly, we enlightened a community in Bauchi State on how they can take charge of their security without waiting for the external interference. All right, next, we'll talk about the workshops and class activities we had so far. We organized a mini workshop about 4 months ago, where we had undergraduate and postgraduate students in a particular seminar hall, where we had them contribute and talk. We raised a particular topic of concern in the community, and those topic brought discussion and raised discussion amongst the students, and it was able to create this facilitation skills amongst the students, where it helped us also work as a team. So we discovered that this particular topic was a concern to people, but because nobody was talking about it, nobody was particularly saying anything. But since it was raised as a topic of concern, everybody raised an opinion on the matter. So it created the belongingness, or the spirit of togetherness and spirit of belongingness. All right, we had a group exercise where we explored the themes of community development. We were able to interact with our group members, where we learned whatever we learned in our group. We were able to go to other groups to also learn what they had talked about from those groups. And it helped us in not just checking our own perspective about a particular matter, but what other people think about something. So we talked about the values into practice, where we also encourage students to put in values into practice of community development work. All right, moving forward, we had key focused activities. All right, one of which was a field trip. We went on a field trip to Nasarawa Orphanage, Kano, where we had interaction with the children at the orphanage, which looked at their perspective about life, how they perceived life to be. We also did a background check on the history of the orphanage home. We were able to go into the orphanage home and interact with the children, where we learned how they were able to, we learned that they had this particular stigma that they always have around them. And those children were not particularly glad about it because they had serious issues with it. And we were able to interact with them. We discovered that a lot of them had emotional needs. For example, they were scared. They were always unhappy that whoever comes to the orphanage had this pity for them. They hated it. They didn't like it. So they felt they were not suffering. So why pity us? We come to the orphanage and you're always crying for me. I don't like that. All right. We also had some people that we discovered that they had material needs. They needed clothes, they needed food stuff and resources, which we tried our best to do a level of. We provided to some level for them. They had personal needs. Some of them wanted to be adopted. Others did not want to be adopted. They wanted to remain there. Physical needs, and then so on and so forth. We had, okay, moving forward, we have the community engagement around the BUK, where we went in particular to discover that some of this community had health challenges that they were not really concerned about because nobody had come to talk to them about it. All right, we particularly visited Angwawambai, and the community suffered from a particular nutritional disease. They suffered from diabetes, they suffered from kwashiorkor, but since there was no health, there was poor infrastructure, they were not really taking cognizance of these health challenges. All right, we also had a group exercise where we discovered the themes of community development, how to encourage the communities themselves to participate in whatever they would be doing. All right, moving forward, we have the focus assignments. What we focus on in the assignments particularly is community health challenges. All right, we identified some predominant health challenges, just like I was stating earlier on. And some of the health challenges are nutritional issues. Some of them had non-communicable disease, communicable disease, and so on and so forth. We discovered that they had low inaccessibility of health centers amongst these communities. They had poor infrastructure. Then the particular matter was some of them were ignorant of what they were going through. They lacked knowledge. They didn't even know what the matter was. They didn't know how to come about, how to try to curtail what they were facing. So they were just living the life there. We had economic challenges and traditional and religious belief. There was a particular community that we visited that were battling with the FGM, that's female genital mutilation case, because they believe so much in their tradition, which says they should keep on doing that. All right, why did we choose this particular assignment? We did that because it's great. It gave students an opportunity to practice every single thing that we have learned in class, not just come to the class, but to go to the field and put to work what we have learned in class. Finally, it gives room for hands-on interaction with the communities. We were able to go to the communities and relate with them, feel what they are feeling, and allow them to create a solution for their own problem. My colleague will continue from here.
Thank you, Patient. My name is Chuka Abakar. I'm representing Bayero University. So among the infusions of community development knowledge is enlightenment of community members on the value of good health, which in this aspect, communities, they were enlightened about the importance of good health and environment in their community. It also facilitated in problem identification and solution brainstorming. Most communities we've visited, they are sometimes oblivious or have like a lackadaisical attitude towards their community. So as community development students, we try to draw their attention on the importance of coming together to work towards solving their problem and thinking towards the best solution for themselves. Also, it promoted human rights awareness, which is related to policy making. Some, they don't know a lot of government policies about how they are going to develop themselves or even do some things by themselves. So we enlighten them on that. We also encourage them to work together. We show them the importance of unity. Also, among our experience, student practitioners, there was training of SBMC. In the training of this SBMC as to student-based management committee, school management committee. That is what SBMC means. This school management committee, the school-based management committee is about community owning their schools, the government schools that were provided for them in their communities. So in my experience, as we train SBMC members, they become more aware of that government schools belongs to them, is for their community, so they have to take ownership. So, and in most SBMCs who took ownership of their schools, they were able to progress. There are some mini renovations that the community come together and they help themselves and make renovations. So what I learned from this SBMC trainings that I engaged in, it shows among the 8 themes of community best practices, that is participatory planning. Once a community will come together and share the values. So once a community have one common goal or share the same value and work together, they will be able to develop themselves. Next slide. Also, among the key issues we identified was the lack of awareness on achieving goals and how to seek help. Most communities do not know that they can follow a proper channel for help from the government. Also, they have limited understanding of teamwork and growth, and also sustainability. And among the proposed solutions were to include, to mobilize local youth organizations, since in most communities there are youth organizations there. So if they are being mobilized and they work together, they will be able to solve their problem. Also, when we have a liaison with the stakeholders in the community to raise awareness on any issue in order to have a solution. Also, they can apply community development best practices to solve most prevalent issues there. And among the ways on how to improve community development learning is to engage professionals in community development practices. Like my colleague mentioned earlier, that among the needs for community development is for us to have a lot of professionals who knows how to engage with the community in order to have a better effect and outcome. Also, we can educate communities on the importance of development, promote unity and discourage tribalism and biases. In most communities in Nigeria here we have different tribes. So among those different tribes, they tend not to engage with one another, but with community development students going there and encouraging them to know the importance of unity, there is a lot of improvement there. Also, it will introduce community development learning at grassroots level and also install communal living values in younger generation. So this will help young people who are coming up in the community to know that they need to come together and help their community. And conclusively, community development students can play a vital role in addressing societal challenges. Also, they can engage in practical activities in the community, which will give them a hands-on experience and also foster sustainable development. In Nigeria, through communities, we can achieve a lot and we can build a better Nigeria with collaboration in the aspect of health and education. So thank you.
Thank you, Patience and Jida. A round of applause for these brave students. Thank you so much. We'll come back to the discussion. Let's now proceed to Chuka University. Catherine Kasoli.
Yeah, good morning from Kenya. My name is Catherine Kasoli. A minute so that I share my screen. Okay, so I hope my screen is visible to your side.
Sure, please proceed.
Okay, so once again, I'm Catherine Kasoli, an undergraduate student at Chuka University, taking Bachelor of Science in Community Development in my final year of study, hoping to finish this April. I'm lucky to present one of the assignments that we did in class and emerged to be the best. Our topic of concern was youth, waste management, and community development in informal settlements of Nairobi, Kenya. This will be my content outline that will be guiding today's presentation, as you can see in your respective screens. Now, our presentation emerged to be the best because it demonstrated practical application of community development principles. Some of the principles that are known for community development practitioners like us are sustainability, equity, we have participation, justice, and even democracy. So our project rather, brought about bridging that gap between what is taught in class and what is happening in the real world or in our communities, in our sake, in the informal settlements of Nairobi or the slums. It also addressed two key issues. One, the social issue to do with youth unemployment, and the environmental issue, in our case, waste management. It also incorporated sustainable community-driven approach where the project is owned by community members and in our case, the youth. It provided a replicable model for other communities facing similar challenges. Waste management is not a new topic and it's familiar with most of us in different areas of the world. Moving forward, we find our introduction. And in Nairobi's informal settlements like Kibera, Mathare, and others, waste management is a major challenge. It is not only an eyesore, but actually a health hazard. And therefore, you'll find that it affects everyone, especially the youth and the vulnerable communities. And young people often face limited opportunities for employment that has led to a rapid increase in unemployment, whereby they are not even involved in meaningful community activities. However, they are uniquely positioned to drive positive change by addressing the waste issue through innovative and even sustainable solutions. Now, there is a concern, is waste management viewed like a dirty work or not really a white-collar job? And since there is a need for community developers to engage in saving our environment, there is need also to motivate our youth to take part and involve themselves fully in projects such as waste management, among others. Moving forward, we have our project approach. We thought of using the tires and bottles collected from dam sites And then they are recycled into useful products such as seeds, and they are trained in recycling techniques now, our youth. And these projects is driven by the community, like the youth own it. And this brings about sense of ownership, whereby it's even easy to adapt to the new techniques that you are teaching them. Moving forward to the benefits that were noted in our presentation is creation of job opportunities for our youth. We noticed that earlier that our youth are facing limited involvement in some of meaningful community activities, and therefore there is need for them to get engaged in productive ways that can bring a bread on the top of their tables. There is also environmental conservation in our informal settlements, and through building social capital or networks, we get to create healthy communities. How this project linked to community development principles and values. Throughout my 4 years of study in the university, I've had the opportunity to learn some of the, key development principles and values through units such as we have the social change units such as introduction to community resource mobilization, community organizing, group dynamics, and even appropriate technology, where we borrowed the youth live in our project. And therefore, our project applies asset-based community development, which is a methodology that emphasizes on the importance of sustainable community development that looks keenly on the strengths and potentials of communities, whereby they insist on leveraging on the locally available resources to solve their own problems. Also, equity and inclusivity through local strengths, and even recycling builds on awareness and recycling and reinforcing sustainability as well. Through the skills and training that improve employability and even advance on social justice. Moving forward, some of the challenges that are foreseen during these projects, such as youth and waste management, are limited financial support, either from the government or from the local partners. The government intervention in waste recycling is still insufficient, it's not enough. And even community awareness is still low on recycling techniques and some of the methods that they can do to adapt to eco-friendly methods of keeping our environment clean. There are also resistance to new waste management practices exist. For example, in 2017, when the Kenyan government banned the plastic bags, majority of the population took it hard to adapt to the new method of the carrier bags. Therefore, that one fosters a little bit a challenge in the efforts of achieving friendly waste management techniques. Now, the strategies to improve community development learning. We need to have more hands-on projects to bridge theory and practice. Students need to get to know what is actually happening in our communities, in the contemporary society and the contemporary issues. You also need to get collaboration with local organizations, that the CBOs, NGOs, to attain the real world experience. Digital tools and data analytics for community assessments in issues such as needs assessment, risk assessment, when even doing monitoring and evaluation. And also, due to the fact that there is limited access, there is need to enhance how we are getting funding for research and grassroots interventions, and also to do policy-driven coursework to enhance advocacy and governance skills. How I see myself applying the knowledge gained and skills in community development. I see myself engaging in launching and scaling sustainable waste management initiatives, Also engaging community members in policy advocacy for better waste management regulations upon other projects. And also see myself doing a lot of training and mentoring to youth in eco-friendly entrepreneurship that can not only save the environment, but also act as a source of livelihood, and also strengthen community networks to foster grassroots sustainability by involving members of the community to take part in every stage of project implementation, and even incorporate stakeholders in the projects that we will be implementing in the near future. Way forward for us as community development practitioners, since members of the community are not on the know-how, we still need to do a lot of awareness campaigns to involve them in some of the projects that we feel they can act as to fill some of the gaps that are present in the community. We still need to do a lot of grassroots mobilization to involve each member of the society in the projects that we are planning to do now and even in the future. Conduct more training programs to develop the necessary skills that are needed in this vast changing world, and also sustainable partnerships which will enhance community ownership, as well as linking our youth with socioeconomic opportunities. We notice that our youth have not been engaged in productive activities that can even empower them economically. Therefore, we need to link them with socioeconomic opportunities that are available within our proximity. Recommendations. Now, to the government should create supportive waste policies, such as the use of 3 Rs: reduce, recycle, and even allocate funding to youth engaging in waste management. Strengthen partnerships to improve resource allocation, and even community education programs should be expanded widely, and even the private sector to be involved so that investments to be encouraged effectively as well. Through the issue to do some of the policies that the government should pass, the 3 Rs: reducing, recycling, and even reusing. That will save a lot in our environmental related projects. Yeah, as I complete, I think together we can transform waste into wealth, and we can make our communities cleaner and create a brighter future for the youth of Nairobi's informal settlements, because it's something that is already happening, and it's something that we are feeling it as the youth of Nairobi, and even as the youth of other parts. And even we need to stand together in empowering our youth and even other vulnerable groups in building more stronger and more sustainable communities. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Asante. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Catherine. Can we give Catherine and the Chuka students an applause? Thank you so much. And now let's go to University of Western Cape, Kabelo.
For those that joined late, I am Kabelo. I'm a UWC student from South Africa. I'm currently doing my final year in community development. Today, I will be presenting a research paper that my colleagues and I compiled. It's basically centered around the effects of migration on rural economies, particularly focusing on aspects of food security and economic security in rural areas. Migration is an integral part of human civilization, and significantly influences our society. I am one of the people that migrated from a small town in Gauteng to the Western Cape for basically the same reason that we all share in common when migrating to different areas areas, which is better job opportunities and educational opportunities, as well as financial opportunities. The objectives of the seminar aimed to examine migration's impact on rural development. We analyzed how migration affects rural economies with a focus on food security, economic stability, and cultural, as well as the social structures involved. The findings of the research identified and indicated positive effects of migration, which are skills transfer, and the negative effects of migration, which are inequality and labor shortages. We also used case studies of international and national countries, namely Mexico, Nepal, and South Africa, to illustrate the real-world impact of migration. The key issues in the paper was centered around the main key question. We wanted to find out how migration impacts rural communities, particularly in food security and economic stability. We approached the question by examining the positive impacts, and we also analyzed the negative impacts as well. We also integrated the evidence-based case studies that were present in Mexico, Nepal, and South Africa in the context of the topic that was covered in the paper. And we further proposed policy recommendations to achieve sustainable agriculture, financial literacy, as well as cultural preservation. This assignment stands out as one of the best because it provides a comprehensive analysis of migration's dual effects. It also has a strong integration of theoretical frameworks which align with community development practice. These frameworks are namely community capitals framework and sustainable livelihoods approach. Community development practice has many other theoretical frameworks. However, for the purpose of this research paper, we focused on these two. We also provided practical solutions for rural development. In this specific slide, we provided a breakdown of what do we mean by community capitals framework in the context of the topic covered in the paper. For community capitals, we refer to the natural, cultural, and financial capital. And for the sustainable livelihoods approach, we refer to the diversification and resilience. The principles that we used are participation and empowerment, particularly to engage rural communities in policymaking. The second principle that we used is sustainability to achieve long-term agricultural and economic strategies. And the third principle that we applied is social justice in an attempt to address inequality from migration. The methods and techniques that we applied are analyzing the case studies that I've mentioned in the slides above. And we have effectively evaluated policy to recommend for governments and NGOs moving forward to improve the current policies they have in place. In reflecting on how to improve community development learning, we have identified that community development studies have strengths in strong theoretical grounding, and it provides real-world application. We see it in our daily lives and also in our work of practice. The areas for improvement, specifically for community development, is that we need to engage more in field work and apply direct interaction with the rural communities and incorporate more digital tools that are modern. And what I have identified is that, particularly in the context of South Africa, there is a major disconnect between theory and practice. In my course, we do practicals. So in the workplace where I'm placed, there's a major disconnect between what we are taught in class compared to what is currently being done and implemented in our scope of work as community development practitioners. For future application of community development knowledge and skills, my career goals are working with NGOs and governments on rural development policies because I have developed an interest in rural development. And I plan on implementing community-based programs. The skills that we utilize in the paper are policy analysis, stakeholder engagement, and sustainable planning. In my years of studying community development, I have realized that it's important to have the ability to comprehensively analyze policy, because policies guide our scope of work as community development practitioners. And it is important to be able to effectively engage with stakeholders and also be able to draft and plan programs that are sustainable, because oftentimes in community development, we find out that programs are not sustainable and they only focus on the immediate needs, which are oftentimes short-term and not long-term. Thank you.
Thank you, Kabelo. And can we give Kabelo and our classmates of the University of Western Cape applause? Wow. This has been quite an adventure for us. When we started thinking about students' presentation, we were not so sure what we were setting ourselves up for. But you'll agree with me, this is one of the best processes we've gone through in the many series of this webinar series that we've been running. And most important, having the community practitioners of the future and the students of community development be with us, share with us their best. In setting this up, we asked that the best assignments in class be presented. And what is important again is that the students have a sense of why their assignments are the best. And so even as we do grading those who are in academia, then we also need to be conscious of the fact that the students that we work with also have an idea of what stands out as the best. And we can already see a representation of what is the best in our region. So thank you so much, Jida and Patience from Bayero University, Kano, and Catherine Kasoli, Chuka University, and Kabelo Moswen, University of the Western Cape, representing your colleagues. Learning is, of course, a collaborative affair. You can only become the best when you are also working amongst the best. And so it's our best wishes. We know the sacrifice that you have had to go through. And I think we are blessed by your application of all this knowledge and sharing it with us. Of course, there is a lot more that can be shared. And equally, this was a session also to see the interface between what is learned in class and what is also being applied in the course of learning, and also a projection into the future, so that we have a sense of where does the discipline take us as practitioners or even as students. And this has been well articulated. And so, of course, there is a lot more, time allowing, there is a lot more that could have been shared. But what I will suggest is that, as has already been indicating, there is consensus that this is a process that can be taken forward. And this is work that I suppose should not be lost. IACD produces e-bulletins, and for purposes of further sharing, if it's possible, I know the students are, some of them are getting into the examination time. This work can now be written in just in prose and in a way that then it can be shared in the IACD bullet forthcoming edition. If not, the next one just it's a running by monthly edition, and that will be very good. And students will start getting some platform in terms of getting your work shared a lot more widely. And so that's a request that I will be making. Of course, the recording will be made available that's also another opportunity for us, again, for you to get some kind of mileage as you journey in your growth in your community development career. Thanks so much for stepping up, and the colleagues in your classes who have joined us, some of them missing classes. We don't take it for granted. We appreciate the sacrifice. And so I want to open up the floor for comments, the floor for discussions, and any observations. And I want to start with Professor DeWitt. This was your baby. I hope you're able now to speak.
I am so proud. This is absolutely fantastic. I think the colleagues and the students set the bar very, very high. And what stood out for me is, and I'd like to ask a question, especially one of the second students said that that worked on isolation, that disempowers communities and a lack of awareness in achieving their goals. I'd like to know from the students also now, we're working in these rural communities, and it seems to be, yes, isolation could prevent them from developing to the pace according to the city environment. But on the other hand, they don't know what they don't know. They are actually managing their environments extremely well. Isn't that the experience of the students working in the rural areas, especially Kabelo, but also the last bigger, where are we from? University. I'm just asking, are we aware of how they cope and how they manage their lives in the rural areas?
Okay, thank you very much. I think to make it easy, we can have any of the students responding. Awareness of how communities are managing their situations, any sense, and in your interactions in your fieldwork, as you implemented your projects, what is the sense that you are getting of communities being in charge of the situations in their spaces?
Okay. May I
Jida,
answer the question?
for patience.
Yes.
Jida,
Yes.
please proceed.
Well, yeah, communities are well aware of their situations, though some of them think it's a normal thing, how they are living. But once you call their attention based on there's something bigger, like something much better they can improve. In my experience, I work with mostly educational programs. The communities think like education is not their responsibility. They have to wait on the government to do it for them. But once we intervene and talk to them, they tend to understand that education is not only their government responsibilities, it's them too. Like education is important. They should be educated and they should have ownership of what is being taught in their school. The education here in the communities I intervened is not actually good. Most students you'll see they don't have teachers, no interventions, but in the community they do have NCE holders and sometimes even degree holders. So they don't know that they can utilize what they have in their community in order to bridge the gap of not having teachers in schools. So once we talk with the community members, especially the SBMC management committee, they tend to see that, okay, we are going to provide, it's going to be like a job opportunity for their students, for their children in the community who have finished school and they are unemployed. So once they start that, the feedback we usually get is incredible, because I know of a student that was in the community, and he don't know that he can go and volunteer in the government school there to teach the student. Once he started, now, as I'm speaking, he's now a fully employed civil servant teaching in that community. So the more we do that, the more they tend to be aware that, okay, we can solve our problem. They are usually like have a lot of issues there that they tend to not think or forget that they can provide a solution to their problem.
Thank you, Jada. The communities have the solutions. We just need to be able to level up with them, and they'll be able to tell us which way to go. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just to add on that, I think we do not know much of like the rural communities struggles, which is where we should come in as community development practitioners to identify the root causes of the issues that they experience and work hand in hand with them together, because at the end of the day, community development is a two-way street. Like, you learn from the community and they learn from you as well. It's not a one-sided part where you just come in and assume their issues and now implement initiatives that you would think will work for them, which is what is happening currently now. That's why policies and initiatives are failing to be effective and long-term, because practitioners come in and have an approach of them thinking that they know what the community needs, instead of actively researching and doing their homework on the actual needs of the community. So it is important for us to implement initiatives that make these communities aware of the skills and knowledge they possess, and now empower them to take action to address the issues that they are facing and how to go about doing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kabelo. Yeah, we need to learn with the communities, and we need again to realize that as you go to communities, there is a lot that we don't know. And so we have to get to that process of learning together and then put in shape to what needs then to be done to make life better for everybody. Any other comment? Okay. Unless,
Yes.
Catherine, there's something you want to say?
Hello.
Yes, Prof.
Yes, this first to commend the Dr. Daniel and team for making this initiative possible, because our students will definitely learn, and as facilitators, we are also learning. My comment has to do with the presentation from Kenya. I drop a chat comment. The suggestions about a policy-driven coursework, I think is a good one. She suggested as part of our recommendation that we should have a policy-driven coursework. While I see it as very, very good and useful, it's important for us to discuss how we can make it possible in our teaching facilitation. How do we make a policy-driven coursework possible? Is it through just infusion in the curricula, or through integration into some of the topics within the curricula, as well as the practical activities, engagement with policymakers, or engagement with policy itself? I think that should be clarified so that we understand how collectively we, as a key lesson from this webinar, that going forward, we can now begin to implement it in our teaching facilitation. So some suggestions from people around. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Shitu. And I don't know whether we to go to Cornell first, or first to hear any feedback on the question being raised by Professor Shitu. Then we can come to Cornell. How do we build our work and ensure that our coursework speaks to policy, integrates policy, and ultimately also policy strengthens our community development curriculum and the way we deliver it.
I would say we could also not just bring it to their coursework. It could become practical too. It could be brought into their curriculum from primary schools, basic education down to the higher education, not just community development as a course too, but we could also encourage other departments, other specializations to see the need for community development in each field, because it's also very important for all other fields to be interested in community development, but not just what we do in class. It's about how we as a community, how we as a country can come together for the good of our country, for the benefit of our community. So it's beyond, okay, going to the class and making a particular support from my policy maker, passions, or that people in a primary school, like we remember social studies, but then there's another courses in social studies that were not really practical. They just want to class and teach us something. So beyond the topic where we can make it practical for those students, that there will be need for this. And that is why when you go outside, these children see something dangerous on the field, pick it up and throw it far from where other persons can get injured. So it's not like that. With policy makers also making policies, so then bringing this community development into all other specialization of like
Sorry, the network has been jumpy a bit, but I think we've gotten bits and pieces of what you are saying in terms of being able now to interface what we are doing with policy, and also still makes sense to see how we operationalize our curricula and our learning, and also make it a whole process of mainstreaming it also even in the other areas of studying, if that's what I'm hearing. But there's also a comment by Cornell. I want to go to Cornell. You can elaborate on what you have put on the chat, and then also raise your intervention. Cornell Hart.
Yes, colleagues, I've put in the chat, I think what Prof. Situ suggested, to me, it's absolutely critical. I think the challenges that we are facing in community development globally is because of the silence, the no voice of communities in policy. And it runs from as local government policies right through to global development drivers such as sustainable development goals. I mean, between Millennium and Sustainable Development Goals, one of the key lessons that was flagged was community participation, community voice. And if we look at those entities that I sit on for the monitoring and evaluation of the SDGs, it comes out over and over again, community voice, community participation. So we're very quick to put metrics together to measure people, but we are not empowering communities on what is policy, how do you read policy, and more importantly, how do you input and change policy. So at UWC's course and 5 other universities that offers this professional degree in South Africa, it's something that we've driven very profoundly for community development profession in South Africa, is that there has to be a dedicated module for policy, and it has to also interface into the other modules, but there has to be one as to how do I read policy, how do we also integrate and align policy. In South Africa, there's a document that came out in 2022 in the Office of the President, flagging the fact that our policies in South Africa is written in isolation, not so much just no community voice, but policies contradict each other. And so we train the students in that so that they know how to do facilitation, how to affect this. As an institution, we've done, and we're now going to do one in 2 months' time for land affairs in a Greek, where we host on a Zoom platform over 200 to 300 members, and we empower community members from all walks of life on a bill, and they give input. And so in 2021, we had the biggest input in the country's history into a bill because of allowing people to understand what is policy and to affect it. And because of that success, the National Department of Land Affairs has asked us if we would host something like that again. And we are now looking at bringing more and more universities on board. And I think IACD we are key in also bringing in voice into Agenda 2063. And, again, students are trained on that, but we need to do a voice for that. And then, Dan, I'm going to put in the chat a link because I was well done to each and every one of these presenters. I still feel it's something it's good we're going to have a video, but there must be more to this. And so I'm going to put it out there. I have shared it in the WhatsApp group at the time, the Inclusive Impact magazine of the Community Development Stakeholder Forum. The Impact magazine, that's the issue that came out, the launch issue. The next issue is due end of June. And I want to invite each one of these students to put together a paper. It's not academic. You'll see when you read the magazine, it's so that it touches a broad audience. And please to consider that. And let's publish that. Let's have it out there, because your presentation cut so well on theories and philosophies indirectly. So for academics, we could resonate with it. But I really think your story, your observation, what you are telling will resonate not just with other CDPs, but with community members. So that's an opportunity. Please consider it. I'll also put in the chat now the guideline for submitting a paper. And please don't feel intimidated by it. You'll see how and when people submitted for the launch issue. It's a wide spectrum. So thanks for that, Dan.
Thanks so much, Cornell, for the input, and the fact that you're indicating also how your university is operationalizing the whole process of making community development real in the practice. And that makes, again, work a lot easier, so that we move from classroom also to the spaces where community development is practiced. And of course, the challenge is translating some of the principles, some of the ideals that we want into practice, and getting a working participatory framework has always been quite a challenge. But this is work that we need to take along. In our Constitution 2010, we had promised that we are going to come up with a national participation practice, so that then we can be able to have an organized way of tapping the voices of communities. The county governments which were established by the Constitution also were challenged also to come up with the same participatory frameworks. To date, we are still debating on the best way to be able to reach out to the communities so that they can be part and parcel of putting their voices into the policy frameworks. In this country, we have had situations where acts of parliament have been declared unconstitutional because of inadequate participation. And that is the challenge that we need to take forward. As we talk about community development practice, IACD is promoting a document on international standards for community development practice. And the theme number 8 is about policy, developing and improving policy and practice as we do community development work. And this is an area that then we are saying, if all what we do, including what in our teaching in academia, if we have no space for showing how we integrate policy, how we promote policy, then looks like we are not living in the bar in terms of what needs to be done as part of sound, responsible community development practice. And now that I'm talking about that, let me invite you, all of us, to our next webinar series presentation, which is going to be in May 14th. And we are going to be having a training on the international standards for community development practice. And Janine DeWitt and myself will be leading that session. But of course, we'll be sharing some more. But I think it's now that it came up, I wanted just to get over with it, because we are talking about 8 pillars which should underpin the minimums as we do community development practice, and policy and integrating policies in what we do and in our work with communities is a minimum that we should be able to ensure it's attained. Thank you, Cornell, for challenging our students that they can publish their work. And already, from what we are saying, we already have 2 avenues. We are talking about putting your work in the IACD e-bulletin, and now Cornell is also providing another avenue, and doors are going to open. So just be ready. That's a process of growth in academia and in your practice. Any other comments, observations? Any other comments? Professor Midu?
Thank you very much. Thank you. I must begin by commending Professor Shitu for bringing this cream of students. And then I must commend those from South Africa and the rest for also giving us these great students. You know, as they were doing the presentation, I was trying to say that now it is time for us to handle the mantle of leadership to them, because we are now confidently having some students that are energetically, they can be able to take over whenever we are ready to leave. This is a very good sign that we are living the AI. We are not living really, but AIACD is in a good hands. Thank you very much for this presentation. I would like Daniel to also ask the student, what is their impression of IACD now and in the future? And then what is their own perception of how do we move from student membership to full membership? And what is the potential of that? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Alan, will come to you. Let's our students comment on what Abdul is raising. I want first to assume that the students are aware about IACD, so that you don't ask them about stuff they don't know. And so that then even as you talk about now the perception going to the future, then you have an idea of, and again, in adult learning, adults are never wrong. And what we don't know, we don't know. And so it's a process of learning. Any student can comment. Where do you see us going? We are going to propose that you become members of IACD from as soon as it's practical. We have a free student membership, and as a token of appreciation, we are going to arrange that you get 1 year's membership. But after that, what? That's what Amidu is asking. Would it be desirable to continue in this kind of journey of community development practice and also joining organizations that promote community development? I think that's a question.
Yeah. Can I answer? Okay, can I give my view?
Yes, Catherine.
Yes, I think the International Association for Community Development is such a good forum, especially for us as students, because one, for networking. You had mentioned earlier that we need to do a lot of networking as far as community development practice is concerned. And since we are young in the profession, we still need to have mentors, and we need to have people who can guide us on how, and maybe on various ways, how we can maneuver through community development application techniques and all that. So I think it's very good forum, and it's a good wall for us to interact, to know the other perspective, maybe of community development, apart from what we know in class. That it is giving us an opportunity to explore even with others from various parts of the world, and mostly for networking, and maybe to get some of the connections that we need to get a success in applying community development knowledge. Yes.
Thank you. Patience.
All right, thank you very much, sir. It's a good thing when you see people in the field you're about to enter who are exposed and doing better. So I would say you people are like a motivation to us. And yes, there is a future in IACD, and we are trusting that one day we would also become as experienced as you are, so that we also hand over to the next generation coming after us.
Thank you very much. I appreciate. Alan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to all the three presenters for excellent presentations. And I'm very encouraged by the quality of the work being done throughout the continent. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Most appreciated. Any final comments, observations?
I just want to say that it always, this is a good initiative. Like Patience and the other student indicated that it's a good initiative for us to connect as one from different countries. And I got to see the linkages between like the shared issues that we experience as community development practitioners and in our work of scope. Even in other countries, it's like the same issues. So it's a good idea to advocate on this platform and raise issues and solutions, and to put forward these recommendations in order to actively solve all these issues that we share in common.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kabelo. So we have 2 or 3 slides just about IACD for the benefit of those who are hearing about IACD for the first time. And I'll be very brief in the interest of time. IACD, standing for the International Association for Community Development, is a global network of professional community development practitioners, both in academic and both in practice. And we have membership from more than 70 countries currently and counting. And we have the privilege of being accredited with the United Nations. And that means then we have a voice to articulate some of these issues that are important in community development to the international level. We subscribe to good practice of governance, and IACD as a network, of course, is for governance purposes, is taken care of by a board of trustees who are also members of the association. And for administrative purposes, we are registered as a Scottish charitable organization. And that means operationally we are based in Scotland, but of course we have presence across the global community. As we talk about community development, of course, we want to talk about our application of the values and methods of community development, because that's what unites us all together. And then those we call community development practitioners, then are those of us working for change in our own communities, but also we also are referring to professionals who are working as community workers by based of professional training in community development. But we also acknowledge that community development is also a shared discipline, because also there are other sub-disciplines that also employ community development in their work. For instance, social work, community health. I have students of community development working with road construction companies and also in the government services. The next slide. So our vision as an organization is to build a collective and a globally connected practice, which is founded and leading to community empowerment, equality, human rights, and social justice, and also promoting participative democracy and sustainable development, which are the building blocks of what a sound community development is all about. Equally, we are also trying to, as a mission, to promote a practice that is empowering and that facilitates networking and shared learning opportunities for a global membership. This is what basically now we've been trying to achieve through this webinar. Next slide. We have a famous definition, because when you go to the literature, you find all sorts of definitions of community development, and after a very elaborate consultative process, then we have a definition of community development that is available, and I invite you to look it up or online. It pops up very easily, so that then you can have it in its fullest sense. Take into account, then we talk about communities, you're talking about communities of locality, communities of identity, communities of interest, and whether these are based in the urban or in the rural settings, but all promoting these values that we are talking about. Lastly, and so we're inviting you to join us, and we continue to grow and work together as a community of community development practitioners. Thank you, Janine. And so as we conclude, as I said earlier, we are inviting you to the next edition, where it is going to be, again, a masterclass of sorts in international standards for community development practice. We'll continue this engagement with our students as you've been invited, and thank you so much for making time and being part of this great journey of building our discipline and also tapping into the next generation of community development practitioners. So thank you, Jida, thank you, Patience, thank you, Catherine, thank you, Cabello, and your classmates and the professors who are mentoring you. All the best.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.